All right, folks, I think we're gonna get started again here. If you are just joining us or joined us recently, thanks for your patience. We had an opening joint meeting with the City Council Subcommittee on Legislative Matters, and now we will continue with the Planning Board specific agenda. Our meeting is taking place here in City Council chambers and also broadcast on Zoom. The first item on our agenda is to invite public comment on any items not on tonight's agenda. Hearings on tonight's agenda are for site plan review for a photovoltaic array on Trumbull Road and site plan amendment for 8 View Avenue. So if you have public comment on a topic not related to Trumbull Road or 8 View Ave, if you're here in chambers, please raise your hand. If you are on Zoom, please use your digital raise hand function and we will call on you in due course. So is there anybody here in council chambers who would like to give general public comment? Okay, seeing none, is there anybody on Zoom who would like to give public comment? Okay. All right. Seeing no one, we will move to our first hearing. As a reminder, with every hearing, we will first hear a presentation from the applicant. We'll have preliminary time for initial board questions and comments. We will then invite public comment and then deliberate, and I'll give more information about public comment when we get to that stage. So with that, we will open our first item on the agenda, which is a site plan review for a PV array over a parking lot at Trumbull Road by Trumbull Road Partners LLC, 8 Trumbull Road, Northampton, map ID 31B-190. And it looks like we have a presentation.
Thank you. Matt Valier with PV Squared. We're a worker-owned cooperative solar installation company based out of Greenfield, Massachusetts, here for site plan review for a small parking canopy proposed at the rear parking lot of 8 Trumbull Road in Northampton. This is a 18.5 kilowatt DC array, 20 kilowatts AC. It's really intended just to offset the electrical usage of the building itself. Here, the roof-mounted system wasn't really feasible, so we were looking at some alternative options. We estimate it will offset around 80% of the current electrical loads of the building. There's some new loads on site, like heat pumps as well, so it could even be less than 80% offset. This started as a slightly larger system, 50 panels, kind of taking up more of that back parking lot. And then through our survey and working with Department of Public Works, they identified a 150-year-old 4-foot diameter brick sewer line running through the property. So we have taken the DPW's recommendation to drop one column and footing and shrink down to 35 panels, and we can avoid at least the main sewer line. We do still have a feasibility piece of locating some of the laterals with DPW because they just don't know where they're coming into that main 4-foot line. So we'll have to do that with them, but we'd be looking for, site plan review for this size, the 35 panel system. This is the site plan here. We've got 3 columns. We're going to be using precast footings. The concrete portion will come up about 24 inches above grade, and then there's an 8-inch diameter steel pole that will come up off of that. I can show you the side elevation. Yeah, right here. So we've got about 8 foot at the lowest end on the south side, and then it's cut off for me. How do I see that? And then, 16 feet on the high side there. We are on the transitional zoning. It's the CBS district to urban residential. It sounded like initially we might need a variance for smaller than a 20-foot setback, but now because of the sewer line issue, we've got that 20 feet. I did provide photos of some existing screening. There's a stockade fence along the property line. I'm not sure that's relevant with the smaller system size, but figured I would mention it. I do have a building permit submitted. We'll amend that building permit based on the new system size. I think that's everything I've got.
Is there any coordination with the existing parking on the site?
In terms of striping and existing parking spaces, our hope is that the 3 columns will not, significantly impact the existing parking. It will certainly make it a little tighter there, but it'll also be towards the back of the lot. So I think you'll still have room to pull vehicles in between those posts. Peter, can I ask you, do you know how many spaces are back there right now?
There's 9 spaces right
Yeah, I guess I can't answer that confidently of how many spaces it would impact. The steel post is an 8-inch diameter. I think we're looking at about 30-inch diameter concrete coming up above grade.
I mean, just from the site plan, it looks like each post will kind of be directly in the middle of one spot, so you'd lose 3 parking spaces.
Would the requirement be to preserve the existing number of parking spaces?
Okay, there's no minimum requirement. No,
Okay.
Are there other questions from the board at this point? Well, we haven't had public comment yet, so. Oh, why don't we invite public comment? Unless, George, you have an initial question? No, okay. All right, so yes, if there's anybody who would like to give a comment or ask a question about this proposal, you have an opportunity to do so now. Please, when you approach the mic, give your name and your address. I will take comment first here in chambers and then on Zoom. Please remember to address your comments to us on the board, not to the applicant. We'll kind of aggregate them and then relay them back to the applicant or discuss them amongst ourselves as needed. So, is there anybody here in chambers who would like to give public comment about this proposal?
Hi, I'm Beth.
Is the mic green?
To hit the button? Okay, how's that? Better? Great. So I'm Beth Spong. My husband and I live at 10 Trumbull Road, right next door, right here. And we have questions about, so I heard that the array will be 16 feet high at the back of it, which I'm guessing the back is the part closest to the building. Obviously, so cars could park. And is it the full, we'd like to know is it the full width of the back of the lot? And also we have concerns about whether there will also be any light associated with it at night. And because there's already light at the back of the house, back of 8 Trumbull Road, and whether we really enjoy the use of our backyard and kind of consider it a little kind of downtown sanctuary that we've created, and so we're concerned about what we will see from our backyard and any light issues as well. And one thing that has been feeding that concern is that for about 6 weeks since the house was painted, there's a cherry picker parked in the back of, behind this building with the bucket, right at the height of our second-story bedroom window, and just on the other side of the fence. So, it's not, I mean, I figure it's gonna be used again somehow, but, we're just interested in what attention is gonna be paid to the impact of us as the next door neighbors of this array. Nothing against, the array, but its impact on our lives and our enjoyment of our property, is a question that we have. And, I work at Dean's Beans Organic Coffee, also worker-owned cooperative, and, at friends with PB Squared, so that's my comment.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here in chambers who would like to give comment? Is there anybody on Zoom who would like to make a comment about this project? Okay. All right, so we'll bring it back to the board. Maybe we can start with the lighting, because that was also a question that was raised in the staff memo. So can I ask the applicant to come forward and describe, what lighting, if any, is planned around or under the canopy?
Yeah, there's no lighting proposed for under the canopy, no changes to lighting.
Okay.
And then just to clarify, the 16-foot height is on the north side of the array.
Correct.
And the 8-foot height is on the south side of the array.
Correct.
So the array is facing south.
Correct.
Carolyn, can you speak toward the question of buffers, screening, what's provided, what's required in this instance?
Yeah, so there's not, there's an existing condition, there's a required setback of parking of 5 feet. So there's an existing non-conforming condition where the site is basically paved up to the lot line. There is a fence dividing the properties. So there wouldn't be any variance. If there would be something, it would be planning board will review, potentially a waiver. In terms of this is really just covered parking. It's not a structure that requires a setback like in, within the district. So this is really about covering parking, and is sort of a flag of thinking about the list of things to address in Central Business District about parking spaces and coverage like this. But there wouldn't be any requirement for adding, a buffer or green space in this scenario because it's an existing condition. And they're not really changing that, they're just covering it.
Okay.
One question that sorry, I forgot her name, asked was, does the array extend the whole property line? And I know that you mentioned reducing the size, so will it look different than it does in this plan?
This plan reflects the reduced system size,
Okay.
and we have 20 feet from the western edge of the array to the neighboring property.
Okay.
Other questions, George?
Well, I know there are two very large outdoor spots on the back of the building, the back staircase. And I'm not clear whether or not we can request those to be any different than they are. I haven't seen them at night, and whether they meet our current kind of lighting code.
Spotlights, is that what
Well, they're not spotlights, they're large, canisters, floodlights, large floodlights, and there's two of them, a pair of them. I haven't seen them at night, what kind of light they cast. But for the abutter, certainly if the light trespasses onto your property, that's certainly a violation. So the landlord might look at doing something a little bit differently. I'm sure they're concerned about the safety of their tenants at night. And it will be darker in the parking lot, in the parking spaces for sure, but, we have to take that into account.
Other questions? Is there Sam, you want to repeat your motion? Sam has moved to close public comment. Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor? Okay, unanimous. So it looks like I'm looking at the staff memo now. There were potential conditions for us to consider, one related to lighting installation, but we've heard from the applicant that they're not planning any new lighting as part of the array. And another proposed condition is prior to construction, to submit final construction plans showing the location of the posts and arrays that satisfies the trenching separation from the sewer line as required by DPW. And I think the applicant has already spoken to that as well. Though it still makes sense to have that as a condition. Are there any other conditions people want to propose, or is there a motion? Mike.
It's a great project, adding solar arrays, especially over a parking area like this. I understand it can be a little distracting for sure for the abutters, but most of the abutters are commercial buildings. And I think it'll be less obtrusive than a big cherry picker for sure. So I'll make a recommendation to approve. Hold on one sec, hold on, I'm getting there. To approve the application for a PV array over parking lot by Trumbull Road Partners LLC at 8 Trumbull Road, Northampton, map ID 31B-190. With we want the two conditions about the final plan and also showing separation of the utilities for the DPW's requests.
I think it was just one. Can you clarify about the conditions?
So it's just one, okay, then the one condition is that the final plan shows the separation of the utilities and the installation post according to the DPW's comments.
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Sam? Great. All right, great. Thank you. Good luck with your project. All right, at this time, we're going to move to our next hearing, which is a site plan amendment for a reduction in units at 8 View Avenue, Northampton, map ID 25C-12 and 17. Before we open up the hearing, I want to just add a couple of other details. One, just a general procedural note. We will have a hard stop at 11, and if need be, we will do a kind of check-in at 10:30 to see where we are and how we can get things to a good stopping point by 11, one way or the other. I also want to clarify that we received and have read through the public comment that came from various people in the neighborhood that's been posted on OpenGov. This hearing is specifically related to the amendment of the site plan, so the layout, the location, and the parking. The applicants in their original application have already shown that they meet the criteria for a special permit, so we're not reopening that hearing. Or reopening the special permit criteria, specifically deliberation of those. We are also not deliberating about wetlands. That is not under our jurisdiction. And additionally, the DEP has already issued a superseding order based on an appeal. So issues around wetlands have been adjudicated. So this hearing is going to be focused on the site plan amendment specifically. So with that, is there a presentation?
Hold on one sec. I have to,
Oh, thank you.
I need to recuse myself. I'm in a butter to the project, so I will be stepping away.
Thank you. I forgot about that. Stacy Daykey.
So thank you. Yeah, we'll try to keep this brief. Jeff Squire from the Berkshire Design Group here on behalf of Sovereign Builders. Yeah, as you noted, project is 8 View Avenue. It was a project that received special permit approval at the end of July in 24. Subsequently followed up with a Conservation Commission order of conditions in October of 24. That permit was appealed to DEP. We did receive a superseding order of conditions on October 7th of this year. And so we are.
I'm sorry, Jeff, can you just clarify that date? Do you mean 2 days ago?
October, August 7th.
Thank you. You
Yeah.
said October. That
I'm sorry. Yes, August.
Thank you.
Yes, so August 7th. Yes, sorry. And that project was for 12 units at the end of 8 View Avenue in this plan that was presented during those proceedings. The amendment before you now is a request to reduce the number of units from 12 units to 7 units. Just market conditions, a number of other factors have led to this decision, and so what was previously proposed were 12 units ranging in size from 700, just over 700 square feet to 1,300 square feet per unit. I think the market has sort of flushed out what the minimum size is and what it can be built for, economically. And so this plan adjusts the unit sizes to, there are a couple that are just over 2,000 square feet, or most are over just over 2,000 square feet. And as required by zoning, there are also at least 20% that are just under 1,200 square feet. So there's 7 units in all. The road layout and all of the other infrastructure has stayed exactly the same. The stormwater system that was ultimately approved by through the superseding order, this was the approved plan. It's virtually exactly the same as we were very fortunate in that we were able to work in those existing units around that stormwater system to avoid a lot of updates and changes to that system. So it's a reduction in units. It's a reduction in impervious area, albeit small, but it is a reduction in impervious area, a reduction in traffic, utility impacts, but all other aspects of the project remain exactly the same. Conservation land, trail connection, sidewalks, all of those things are still part of the project, and certainly any of the conditions that were part of the original permit would certainly still be applicable. So that's the summary.
Maybe I should have this myself, but can you just show us the old plan, the plan that we previously
Sure.
approved?
Yep. So that's this one here. There was additional surface spaces. A number of these units, the smallest ones obviously didn't have, garage space or parking space associated with them. These, smaller, 700 square foot units didn't have parking. So there was a number of surface spaces that were required with those. And so, obviously one of the amendments is that each of these now includes, a designated parking space within that unit. So it removes some of the need for those surface spaces. But emergency access, the road alignment, everything else has stayed the same, just reduced the number of, units and surface spaces, surface parking spaces.
So I guess you answered my question. The alignment of the road is the same, and you just have less parking spaces on the right-hand side
Exactly.
and more building on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can see the parking space, particularly in the south, north, each of these had 4 spaces, 7 spaces in the southern portion. These are now, just groupings of 2 or 3 for visitors and overflow.
And then just out of curiosity, how far are you off of what do we have, a 35-foot no-touch zone?
Yes. Yeah, so the disturbance limit, the limit of work, none of that has changed. It was simply just replacing units within the current development area.
Okay, thanks.
Jeff, I apologize if you said this and I missed it. I believe one of the other changes had to do with bike storage.
Sorry. So this plan had 2 bike storage shelters, outdoor storage areas, particularly for the units, the smallest units again. All of these now have some dedicated storage space inside that garage, that lower level garage. So that was built in, just again to the plan update. So all of these have some dedicated storage within the units themselves.
George, Sam, initial questions?
The actual materials used for the buildings are similar to what was proposed originally?
Yes. Yeah. And I apologize. Oops. Yes, they're very similar materials, very similar architecture. I think, again, the biggest value that was recognized was just providing some parking, some garage space associated with those units. That deck space, above that sort of loft space above that garage was highly desirable, and that's just something that's gotten flushed out over the last couple of years since this was originally proposed. But it's all the same materials, same general footprint.
So again, the dimensions, the size of the houses, there'll be 2 units that are basically somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,200 square feet and 5 units that are 2,000 plus?
Correct. 2,090 square feet, I think. Yes.
Because the original application, part of the big appeal of it was that there were more houses for sure, but they were smaller and
Right.
perhaps a lower price point. But I understand the market's changed quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things, Lawrence, is there have been a couple of those really small units, on the market in other places in the city that have just had a tougher time selling with the dimensions and square footage inside. And so that was one of the realizations, combined with just the additional costs associated with the appeals and everything else, has led us to where we are today.
All right, well, unless there are any other initial questions from the board, I'll suggest that we open it up to public comment. We are going to take public comment first here in chambers and then on Zoom. I'm just going to go through my little list again in case folks didn't hear it the first time. Please remember to state your name and address. Remember to address your comments to us on the board, not to the applicant, and we'll kind of hear them, aggregate them, typically sort of take them all at once and then refer questions back to the applicant or discuss them amongst ourselves as needed rather than discussing in between each comment. I'll reiterate, we have read the public comments that were submitted in writing ahead of time. I think that we've got a decent crowd, some folks here in chambers and certainly some folks online. So I'm going to ask folks to keep their comments to 3 minutes and focused on the part of the project that we're here to review this evening. So with that, I will invite comment here from anybody in chambers who would like to speak about this project. Yes, sir. The light to be green.
Okay, I got you.
Good.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Fenton. I live at 164 North Street, and my property will abut this project on two sides, one being View Avenue and the back portion of my property, which is the north side of the property. Sovereign Builder's been very forthright with the planning of this and talking to me about what's going on and how it's going to affect me. The only question I really have is, at last meeting, we discussed the sidewalk that goes along the View Avenue property from pretty much from the where it tees off to North Street, probably about the last 20 feet or so, if even that far. At the North Street end, the sidewalk will have to cut through the roots of two of my trees. It has to cut down about 2 feet, I think, to get to the level where the sidewalk will be. The roots do run along the top of the ground, so they will be making a significant cut into the roots. It was my understanding that someone from the DPW was going to go out and look at the trees and make an assessment. I didn't hear anything what the outcome was of that, but I am concerned about the trees. They may be good for a little while, but once it's cut into 2 years or 3 years down the road, I don't want to be responsible for taking down some trees that were damaged by this project and that was approved by the city. So I know in this new approval, it does have flexible porous pavement required within 5 feet of the tree. They're going to have to dig into probably within a foot, foot and a half, maybe even 2 feet of the tree to get to where the sidewalk's got to be. So it's going to make a significant impact on those trees. So I don't know if they can be taken down and new ones be put up so it's not going to affect the sidewalk, or what a plan could be to not destroy the trees. Because like I said, 2 or 3 years down the road, I don't want to be on the hook for taking down some trees that were very, very healthy, and it won't be then. So that's my concern. I don't know the results of any one going out to our property and looking at that. I would like to know that. But thank you. And they do, again, they have to dig down probably about 2 feet to get to where the sidewalk level will be from where the grass is now, where the roots are now. So, thank you.
Thank you. Other folks here in council chambers who would like to give comment? I can't see everybody, but I don't see any hands. So, okay, I will turn things over to Zoom. I see Jackie McCreener.
Hi, good evening. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Jacqueline McCrainer, Northampton, Massachusetts. I recently heard the phrase that the truth matters, and I couldn't agree with that more. The truth is basically that this is a swamp, a wetlands that is completely unsuitable for this type of development. I understand we're not in a conservation commission meeting and that the Mass DEP has issued its superseding order of conditions. The applicant has stated in their special permit amendment request that the design of the stormwater management system is over-designed. I'd like to state for the record that the petition group that brought the appeal to the Mass DEP for the Conservation Commission's approval and issuance of the order of conditions in October of 2024 found that the applicant's stormwater management system is very likely to fail. These are slab on grade homes being built in a wetlands that's going to be deforested of a Norway spruce forest that sucks up a whole tremendous amount of groundwater, paving that over and building these units. So I feel for the homeowners, I feel for the abutters, I feel for the neighborhood, I feel for the city that is losing all the benefits of this wetlands as it is functioning now and the forest that is currently protecting it. What is the status of the current stormwater permit? Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we, before we continue,
Mhm.
are we actually talking about, I mean, the project was okayed, so are we talking about the changes or?
So we're here to, because the applicant has requested a site plan amendment, so it's related to the changes in layout and parking.
Well, I understand that, but I feel like we're talking about a bunch of stuff that we already, I just want to make sure that we're not rehashing the previous meeting.
Mhm.
There's no, oh, but what's the point of saying whatever they want if that's not part of the discussion? Anyways,
Well, I think that's part of hearing public comment. And I think we've heard a couple of questions that are relatively straightforward to answer. So I see Adam Cohen has their hand raised online.
My name's Adam Cohen. I live at 134 North Street. My question is, will the applicant need to apply to DPW to revise its stormwater permit? And if so, when will that happen?
Thank you. Bear with me. All right. Is there anybody else on Zoom who would like to make public comment? If so, please go ahead and raise your hand so that I can recognize you. Yes, Maxwell Pryor.
Like, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I've lost my voice, so apologies for that. But anyway, I just wanted to, I'm new to the neighborhood. My name is Maxwell Pryor. I live at 37 Woodmont Road. An owner of one of the condos there, duplex. I just wanted to second Jacqueline McCrenner's sentiments as well as her question. I did write submit some comments that would certainly exceed the 3-minute allotted time to read those out loud. And I think they're similarly may not pertain quite to the matter at hand, but I do have significant concerns as a neighboring property owner. And yeah, I think the most effective thing for me to do would just be to second, like I said, Jacqueline's concern and her question. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie, I see your hand up again. I want to see if there's anybody else who would like to make comment who hasn't yet had the chance to speak. Okay, seeing none, Jacqueline, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Could the board or the applicant also please speak to the status or what is going to be happening with the conservation restriction for the property? And again, are we talking about decimating pretty much the entire Norway spruce forest in addition? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm not seeing any other hands online or here in person at this point. So, Carolyn, I'm gonna, recognizing that many of these questions do not immediately pertain to the deliberation we're having here this evening. Nonetheless, I think it would be helpful to provide some answers to members of the public. So I've heard several questions. So maybe we can work our way through these. One was related to the trees on the abutting property and evaluation of those relative to construction of the sidewalk. Can you speak toward that at all, or should I ask the applicant?
Sure, I can start. So in terms of there were conditions to address that, I believe. I'm just running through the conditions now. I think that, I believe there's a condition about, having an arborist determine, on site about the, best way to, construct the sidewalk around those trees and if it requires root pruning, but I'm still going through here to make sure that that's there. If it's not, that's certainly a condition that you can apply, but you might want to confirm with the applicant about what the arborist determination was.
Can we clarify, are these trees on the abutters property or are they in the city's easement, the city's tree belt?
This is not a public street, so it's not it's private property. But I don't, so I think, those trees are on the abutters property just outside this, site. So the idea of putting the pave across that would be, much more forgiving. I mean, the city's been doing that more and more with sidewalks where there are existing trees and they have to replace the sidewalks. The tree warden would not be doing an inspection on these because they're not trees in the public right of way.
Okay. So will you keep looking for the
Yeah.
condition? Okay, so you'll let us know.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Two other questions were related to the status of the stormwater permit. I think the applicant specified that the stormwater system that they designed for the plan that was originally approved was staying almost entirely the same. It sounds like maybe with some minor modifications. So does that need to go for re-permitting? Has that happened? What is the status?
Yeah, I mean, there were some conditions from the original stormwater permit that final construction plans had to be, submitted, and then the stormwater management report or management plan has to be recorded. So if the trigger for modifications is if there is a change in impervious surface, either increasing or changing the location, that would trigger an amendment. So, but as part of the process to do the pre-construction filing relative to meeting the stormwater permitting, that would be reviewed at DPW, given that everything is stated to be the same except for a small reduction in impervious. That wouldn't change the system per se, but again, there were conditions of that stormwater permit to address issues that were raised during that first period, and those things still stand. So those are in effect.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
So just for my own sake, so the DPW did issue a stormwater permit. They reviewed it according to the original calculations, and they have provided that to us. Okay.
Yeah, so you couldn't have closed, because it's more than an acre of disturbance, you couldn't have closed that permit previously
Yeah.
without that.
Because of the expansion of the buildings, there's more impervious roof so there's more flow from the roof, but there's also a less less pervious space because of the reduction in the parking areas. So we're assuming that that's kind of a swap. DPW doesn't have to look at those calculations in order to,
Well, rooftop runoff is inherently cleaner than parking lot runoff because you don't have oils from the cars that are parked there. So,
but it's still runoff.
right,
Right, it's still water that's not, that being, just hitting the ground and going back into the groundwater.
But
sure.
the total
But the
impervious
total is
can be-
less
Yeah,
The total is less, okay.
and more of that impervious area is rooftop. Or I'm surmising that. I might be incorrect, but I think it would have to be because of the reduction in parking spaces.
yeah. So there are a lot of pre-construction conditions in the stormwater permit, and those still stand. They have to be met. So, it's about, you know, inspection and maintenance scheduling, also making sure that there's protections of public systems and erosion control is in place, and final plans have to be submitted too. So with the construction details. So all of that's done before construction can start, and though nothing in that will change. And so if the calculations haven't changed based on these minor amendments, then there wouldn't be a trigger for a stormwater permit amendment. But if there were changes, then DPW would make that determination. That's not something the planning board would make. And then the applicant would have to adjust that before they could start construction. But that's an administrative review.
And they will be making that determination one way or the other when they submit the plans prior to construction. So it's not like the project's going to get underway and then they discover, oh no, actually,
Yeah.
that will all be reviewed and vetted
Yep.
before construction commences.
Yep.
Good. The question on there was a question related to conservation restrictions. So Jeff, can you talk a little bit? I'm not sure we addressed whether there was any changes to the planting plan as part of the site plan amendment.
No, all the quantities are still the same. We obviously had to adjust some of the trees along the front of the buildings, just given their location, but all the quantities remained exactly the same. The conservation land that was proposed to the west of this, most of the wetland area, is all still part of the project. So yeah, there's no changes to any of those other proposals.
And just to confirm, those are conditions of the Conservation Commission permit and the superseding order as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
And just to follow up on what Carolyn was saying about the DPW, we will need to request an amendment for the superseding order of conditions as well. DP, we've been in correspondence with them just about what's required for this amendment, and yeah, provided, you know, there isn't a big change in impervious area or stormwater runoff, you know, we anticipate doing that, you know, following this process. So.
Great. While we have you here, has an arborist been out to the property related to the sidewalk and the trees?
Not specifically. I think obviously, you know, things got delayed for a while, so they were focused on other things. But if, you know, as this starts to gain traction toward construction, that would certainly be something that we would look at doing. Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, I was just looking at your plans a little closer. So I see you do call out flexible porous pavement required within 5 feet of tree roots on your plan. And then you're also adding modified Cape Cod berm. So that's like usually like a 4-inch profile, maybe. So you're kind of gaining 4 inches over existing because right now there's no curb
Right.
there.
Right.
So that's giving you a little bit of
Of
depth
reveal there. Yep.
for that flexible pavement over those roots.
Yes.
Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better about it. Thank you.
And while you're there, can we talk about that spread of Norway spruces that came up? I guess that most of them were gonna come down for the road. And I guess that's still the same, given that the footprint of the construction.
Um,
Same.
Yeah, I mean, the tree removal hasn't changed from what it was, you know, at the conclusion of the last hearing. You know, there are some spruces in the center of the site, you know, just behind the existing structure that will need to come out because it's, you know, literally in the center of the project. But there are a lot, you know, further into the wetland area, that we're not impacting that will remain. There's a number, you know, around the fringes of the property that will remain. I forget what the total quantity of trees were that we were taking down, but it certainly is a small fraction of what is on the overall site.
Yeah, it's a small fraction, but it's a grand kind of expanse of trees right there. No doubt about it.
There, I mean, there is a stand of trees, yeah,
Yep.
just to the southwest of that existing house. I think those are the ones that are probably going to be the most impacted. There's a hedgerow behind that that is actually within wetland that will remain. So there's a number of yeah, Norway spruces on that property that were planted closely together way back when as a hedgerow, and you know they're tall tall trees at the moment. So yeah.
Carolyn?
Yeah, so I just wanted to confirm the conditions that exist on the existing permit, that the applicant has to submit a certification by by an arborist that the tree protection has been installed according to the recommendations that were previously submitted along View Ave, and installation of on-site tree protection shown on the plans. They also have to submit confirmation that the tree protection and 4-foot sidewalk can be installed without degradation of the trees. Alternatively, the applicant may bring revised plans to the board to review based on an arborist report to show an alternative pedestrian connection that will meet the standard in 11.6. So that's how those conditions were. And then I just wanted to clarify, none of this project is being built in a wetland.
Right.
So that would not be allowed.
Can we talk about traffic mitigation? I believe because of the reduction in units, the applicant is requesting, or we're suggesting, or somewhere in between, that a related reduction in their traffic mitigation payment.
Yes, so by the zoning ordinance, there's a requirement for an incremental payment in lieu of traffic mitigation based on the total number of new trips or related to the units. So since they're going from 11 new units, because there was an existing single family, 11 new to 6 new, then that would correspondingly reduce to $6,000.
Is that something that we need to condition?
No, it can just be noted in the decision, like the reduction, you know, corresponds to a reduction in units corresponds to a reduction in the traffic mitigation requirement.
Great. I can see that there are a couple of folks on Zoom who have their hands raised again, as we have not yet closed public comment. Is the board inclined to hear more questions and comments? Yes, okay. I'm going to turn first to Rihanna, who we have not yet heard from.
Hi, my name actually is Mary now. I show up on Zoom as Rihanna. But I live at 186 North Street, and so 80 yards away from this development. And what I'm mostly concerned about is that water always seeps. And so I want to know what the builders will do if 2 years down the road there is mold and mildew in these homes that because they're built on slabs in an area that's quite wet, and what the builders will do to help them, the owners.
Thank you. Jacqueline.
Yeah, there's just no skirting the issue that there are excessively high water tables on this property. And if the city hadn't gutted its local wetland ordinance in the mid-aughts, this would be considered a resource area and not just a buffer zone. That said, I would like to ask, what is up with the Zillow listings by the Murphys and Craig Della Pena, which don't even state permit pending? And I've heard that the builder is also offering tours to the property site to prospective home buyers. So please speak to what's up with the two Zillow listings for the type A unit and type B unit of this prospective housing development that do not even say permit pending. It's just type A selling for 1.4 million and type B selling for, I don't know, 1.1 million or something like that. So please speak to that.
I will just generally say that the developer's business decisions are there to make, and if they decide to sell buildings that don't get permitted, then that's something that they need to deal with on their side and has nothing to do with our work here on the planning board. Similarly, if the buildings are built and purchased, presumably, and there are issues with them, then the new owners will be responsible for addressing any issues that take place there and handling that as best they can. So that's not something that we have control over or are trying to make determinations about here in this hearing. And Carolyn.
Yeah, just to confirm, there is, all the permits have been issued for this project, so there is a permit on record for this.
I would like to move to close public comment.
Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor? Great. So it sounds like, given the existing conditions related to the sidewalk and the trees, that that's not something we need to recondition here since it's part of the original permit and that still holds, and that we don't need to condition anything related to the adjustment in traffic mitigation. We're just noting that along with the reduction in units, there will be a related reduction in the payment in lieu. Are there any other proposed conditions or points of discussion from the board?
Sorry, I know we talked about it, but I forgot about the status of the stormwater permit. The conditions that kind of it'll kind of be handled.
Yeah, so they have an
final
existing
plan.
stormwater permit, and the permit has conditions that before any construction starts, there's a series of things that need to happen, including going back to DPW and showing final construction plans, which will show the revised, unit layout and the calculation of the impervious surface and all of that.
Okay.
And if that triggers administratively on the DPW's and any need to amend, typically, they want to make sure they know that the permit is referencing the right plans.
Mhm.
So it could be that they make an amendment to that sort because they specifically document the plans dated X date.
Right.
So that might be enough to have internally what we would refer to as an amendment.
Okay.
But that would all be required based on the original conditions.
Okay, so not anything we have to note.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does somebody care to make a motion?
I move to approve the site plan amendment reduction units, Sovereign Builders Incorporated, 8 View Avenue, Northampton, map ID 25C 12 and 17, LU 2520.
Is there a second?
I second.
Question, George? Discussion?
You mentioned the note about the traffic fee reduction, so that's incorporated.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the site plan amendment. All those in favor? Approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. We have minutes, I think, from the 25th. Oh. Is
We have a quorum to approve the minutes.
we officially
I move to approve the
excuse
minutes.
Stacy. All right, Sam has made a motion to approve the minutes of September 25th. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Are there any ANRs? Is there any other business?
I have one item. So every fall is the season to review capital investment projects. And the mayor typically convenes a committee and asks representatives from different boards to sit on that. Melissa Fowler had sat on that for the last couple of years. So I would love to have the board recommend someone for the committee. It's going to be November, December, maybe 5 to 6 meetings. The first meeting would be just an organizational meeting to figure out what's the best time of day to meet. The 5 to 6 meetings are really sort of with each department to evaluate the requests that are coming from the department. That's what I'll put on the floor.
And those meetings probably happen between 8 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or?
Well, it
Gonna work it.
depends. So I think for the last few years, they've been trying to do that to the benefit of staff who have to go to the meetings and describe the projects. But again, that will be determined at the organizational meeting. And they will all be on Zoom, so you don't have to go physically to City Hall. And those will be again, depending on the total number, 5 to 6.
I served on the committee back in the aughts, as we're calling them these days. What? The aughts, 2000, 000, during the aughts, and it was a very good experience in terms of learning how the department heads approach their big capital investments and how the city weighs, this investment versus that, and just at capital goods.
I could do that assuming I could do it via Zoom.
It's all Zoom.
Yeah.
Yep.
I could do it as well. I had some concerns about the timing. I'm going to be away for at least a week in November, and I work a pretty standard 9 to 5, but if I can do it via Zoom, then that's fine.
You guys have to thumb wrestle for it.
I think Sam's going to win.
Your window, Janet. Well, I am very busy with CPC, so I would otherwise be interested, but I am not interested.
Sam, do you have another, like, separate committee assignment right now? Neither do I.
I'm not when the bus work.
I'm not either.
Tiebreaker. All right. Well, I'll nominate Jana to wear that hat for us at the CPC.
Not at the CPC.
At the CIP, CPI, CIP, at the CIP, Continuous Improvement Plan.
That sounds like I'm about to get fired at my job. That's a performance improvement plan.
Yeah, not to take
Okay.
anything away from Mr. Taylor, but if you can do it from your office and home, and yeah, I think it would be really helpful in your role as the chair too.
Is this, do we need to take a vote? What's the process here?
Well, how about a show of hands? Does that work?
That works for me.
Okay.
Okay.
Those in favor of Jana. Nominate yourself.
All those in favor of Jana, just writ large, like just me.
Okay. And I think that's all I have.
Could we talk just for a minute about our next meeting in late October? We were gonna discuss, wondered if there's any homework we could prep. I don't think
Yeah.
there's any applications, but
Yeah, so in the minutes, I noted that you guys talked about having October 23rd as sort of the time to look at the central business districts and tweaking talking about tweaks that might be appropriate based on, experience now with a couple of projects. And so we have one continuation and that's it. And then there would be plenty of time to dive in to the central business. And I would say, there are a couple of things that I think I can send you sort of the notes that I have for topics, but for example, there may be things that make sense for side and gateway or side, or maybe all three. But mostly I think it's about the side and gateway is primarily where that may come up.
Central basically abuts side and gateway, right? Like does central.
No, central is sort of surrounded by side and gateway.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yes.
Like
So
it doesn't really abut any of the other
right.
residential
Right.
areas.
I think the only thing that I would think is maybe to reevaluate is the solar canopies over parking and whether or not that needs to come in for planning board.
and it's an open meeting. We can talk about examples from past applications that
Absolutely.
we've been permitted. We just can't talk about anything that's in front of us
Right.
as examples of.
Right.
I missed the last meeting where it sounds like it was decided to discuss this at the 23rd, which is great. I look forward to that. I remember the meeting before when this first came up. One of the things that we talked about was, were there particular projects or sites that we kind of wanted to visit / revisit? Is that something that, are there any particular, well, let me rephrase that. If there are particular projects or sites that you think would be useful for us to look at, either, look at the permitting and go and see the site, or just, walk around this particular street, or even the kinds of, I found the visual examples this evening, very helpful just to kind of ground and solidify what we were talking about. So if there are any recommendations you could make about, as George said, a little bit of homework, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, I'll make a motion to adjourn at 9:53.
George has motioned to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you, everybody.
We didn't even come close to that 11 o'clock deadline today. Thanks, man.
Oh, great.